Hello everyone, and welcome back to Eat Sleep Reef. Today we are going to be covering the polyplab reef primer. So with this video, what we're going to be covering is pretty much how to dip your corals. Right now I do have a Euphilia coral frog spawn that does look a little bit stressed out. It doesn't have brown jelly, at least from what I can see, but it's just not opening up. It could be, due to stress, water parameters. I was working on my phosphates. And I did drop them. I pretty much spread it out over a week, but it may have been too quick for this specific coral. So we're gonna do two dips, one today, one tomorrow, and I figured I would take advantage and show you guys the way this polyplab reef primer works. So I've used a lot of dips out there on the market. There's a few common name brand ones known. But I believe that the polyplab reef primer is by far one of the softest on your coral, but the hardest on any infections, any parasites, anything that comes along with the coral that you don't want in your tank. I feel this product here is very soft on it, and I'm not just saying that. A way I figured that out, anytime I would use any other dip, I would notice the coral would take a day and a half to opening. With other primers, where with this primer I notice the coral opens a lot sooner than when I would use the other dips. That tells me, at least visually, that at least this primer or this dip is a lot gentler on the coral and affects it a lot less. But then again, I can say that this stuff is really good because every time I dip a coral in this, I always see stuff flying off of them. So that tells me that it is doing its job. It is a little bit different than other primer because it is a salt. So I don't know if you guys can hear that. It is a salt, it's not a liquid. So you do have to mix it in with the water you're gonna be dipping the coral in, and obviously salt water. So what I would recommend you do is, let's say you're introducing a new coral, you're gonna wanna acclimate the coral first. So do a slow drip acclimation. I would do that for about anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. Once you're done dipping it, you want to pour a little bit of the salt. The directions are in the back, kind of tells you exactly how much to use. And you want to pour it in a little container wherever you're going to be dipping the coral. You want to mix it up before you add the coral in there. Don't add the salts. You first want to mix it, then you add the coral in there. And just really quickly here, to cover what this polyplab reef primer does. So as you can see here, reef primer will clean away zoanthid eating nudibranchs, montipora eating nudibranchs, acropora eating flatworms, bristleworms, zoanthid eating spiders, that's a big one, red flatworms, another good one, filamentous hair algae, not sure what that is. This is another really common one, especially for SPS, rapid tissue narcosis and slow tissue narcosis, also known as RTN and STN, and also bacterial infections and more. So I'm today dipping my coral because of this, the bacterial infection. So we're going to show you guys how that works, and then quickly here to show you guys the bottle. So obviously you don't want to eat this, that's pretty self-explanatory. And then here it also briefly talks about how much you want to be using. Here I'm going to be using a little bit less than a capful right now, and you typically don't want to dip it more, you see here, than 5 minutes. So we're going to get right to it. I'm going to get the coral out and we're going to show you guys how to use this polyplab reef primer. Alright, so really quick, we have here the container where I'm going to be putting the coral. It's going to be in here. We have the reef primer, and you want kind of like a turkey baster because you're going to want to be swirling the water so it's moving. So the instructions does say, if you look right here, let me hope it zooms in. Okay, so add 45 grams or 8 capfuls for every 1 gallon. So obviously this is nowhere near 1 gallon, so I'll probably add like half a capful. One little quick tip I do want to give you guys is obviously, like I mentioned, you do have to mix this. You have to make sure the salts fully dissolve. So one little quick tip I have is you want to just put a little bit of the water first, and the reason I just do a little and not more of it, because obviously when we have this exposed out of the aquarium, the water is going to cool. So I just put very little. I mix it, and so while the time I'm mixing it, you know, if this water does cool, it's no big deal, because I'm going to come back right before I bring the coral and fill it up with tank water. So that just allows the temperature to not fluctuate too much so we don't shock the coral. A lot of you guys may be saying I'm going overboard with it, but it's just my little theory. So we want to do, I don't really think you need to shake this, but I just give it a shake anyways. So we want to come in with probably about half a little capful. So I don't know if you guys can see it, but they're just little salts. Okay, so there we go. Then we come in, and it's probably a little bit too much salt, but it's no biggie. I'm not going to dip it too long. So here you want to make sure just you swirl it. And also, while you have the coral in there, you want to periodically just be swirling it. So once this does fully mix, make sure everything is dissolved, I'm gonna grab the coral and I'm gonna bring the extra water to top this off and pour it in here. So again, you don't want to introduce the coral until everything is fully dissolved. And that should just take you a few minutes of just kind of swirling it around. So right now what I'm gonna do is just cut the video here, and we'll bring you guys right back as soon as everything's fully dissolved and we're getting ready to add the coral. So I did go ahead and add the rest of the water. You can see I filled it up. So just make sure you add enough water to cover your coral, or corals if you're doing more than one. And that's another thing, if you are doing more than one corals, I'm pretty sure you can dip multiple corals in here. Like, let's say I have them all lined up. I dip one, then take that one out, put it in the tank, put another one in here. I'm pretty sure you can do that. I don't see why not. So everything is dissolved. You're gonna notice it takes about maybe 30 seconds to a minute to fully dissolve everything. All I did is kind of do this and then spot with the turkey baster, but I'm very comfortable how it looks. Everything is fully dissolved. So what we're gonna do right now is go grab the coral and just put it in here. All right, so I went in and put the coral in here. Now, one thing, you don't want to be blasting the coral with the turkey baster. That's not at all what we're trying to do. We're just, if you do get the coral right on the head, you just want to lightly, put water on it. And of course on the base, if you want, you can be blasting it if you wish. I mean, don't go too crazy though. Compared to other dips, you're going to notice the coral retracts a lot less with this dip. So on the label, it does say it's very gentle on corals, and I believe it. Even on this one was in my display tank. I do see stuff coming off of it, but all they are is pods. Pods, and then the little tiny snails, I forget the name of them. So it is killing those. And again, the coral, you can see even this head here hasn't even retracted. Any other dip, I probably would have seen a little bit more of the head retracting. And you want to make sure you don't dip it for more than 5 minutes. Through the whole dip, what I do, I'm kind of looking over the coral the whole time, but you want to make sure you don't, you have the water moving. I know some of us are going to get lazy. We're going to leave it there and maybe swirl the water one time. That's fine, but the more you keep the water moving, the more contact the solution is making with the coral and killing anything on it that's bad, of course. Just kind of examine the coral, make sure everything looks good. And then here I'm gonna let it sit for a little bit, and then we'll come right back as soon as it's complete. So I'm pretty happy we're at the 5-minute mark. Pretty much at this step, you can go and you can put the coral in your tank, and you can be very sure that there's no longer any bad stuff on the coral. In my case, if you are treating potentially an infection, I don't know if it is or isn't an infection, so I'm going to do this dip probably the next day and maybe even the following day, so a total of 3 days, just to make sure there's absolutely nothing wrong with the coral. So you can use it kind of to care for a coral that's looking a little bit funny, but of course anything new you introduce into your tank, any coral, you absolutely do want to use this polyplab reef primer. So that's going to cover today's video on how to properly dip your coral with this polyplab reef primer. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys found it very useful, because this is actually something you are going to have to be doing every time you introduce a new coral into your reef tank. So not to be mistaken, for you newer people out there, you do not do this with fish, you don't do this with crabs, you don't do this with snails. This is only for corals. So yeah guys, now that's pretty much it. I hope even you guys that are using other dips out there, I highly recommend you guys taking a look at and giving this Polyplab Reef Primer a try. For you guys that have been in the hobby for a while, you probably know the brand Polyplab. Great company, always delivering great products, so I'm very sure you guys are going to be very happy with this product. So that's going to be pretty much it. I am going to have a link in the description for you guys looking to purchase this product. You guys can go ahead and do so by following that link. So as always guys, thanks for watching. Happy reefing.